Guess I'm doing this preview now. I was gonna do this preview tomorrow, but the NHL has updated the schedule, and these guys play tomorrow. So Colorado will be designated home team against Dallas right out of the gate. Best of 7. This should be a fun series. I don't know how long it's gonna go. So we're gonna look at their team histories, both of this season and in playoffs past. I'll do this with other series as well. But Dallas and Colorado know each other pretty well. They know each other pretty darn well. So both relocated franchises. It's the Minnesota North Stars and the Quebec Nordiques in here, and of course opposite conferences, so they wouldn't have played before they became the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche, not playoff wise, anyways. And this year was interesting. So Dallas had a pretty decent record against Colorado overall. They win in Colorado 2-1 on November 1st. Then November 5th in Dallas, they win 4-1. On December 28th, Dallas wins in a shootout 3-2, and then Dallas beat them 3-2 on January 14th. They're all close games, but Dallas comes out pretty well against Colorado. Now, since the return, they met August 5th in a game that Dallas, I don't know if they weren't interested or if Colorado was that good. I'm thinking probably both. And Colorado wins that game 4-0 on August 5th, which was 2.5 weeks ago, which in 2020 time is equal to about 2 years. 2020 is a very prolonged, not since the War of 1812 have we seen a year prolonged as much as this. So 1999 was the first time these teams met in the playoffs. I remember it well. This was the year that Dallas overcomes Colorado in 7, and everybody rejoiced together saying, yeah, it's just because you didn't have to play Detroit. If you'd had to play Detroit, you wouldn't have won that. And so that was a conference final. They win the Stanley Cup. No controversy there. 2000, they meet in the conference final, and again, Game 7, Dallas wins, and they move on. They lost the Stanley Cup final that year to the New Jersey Devils. So that's the good part of the story for your Dallas fan is, hey, when we beat Colorado, we go to the Stanley Cup. Yep. But 2004, Colorado beat Dallas in 5 in the first round. And then 2006, after the lockout prevented them from meeting in 2005, round 1, Colorado beats them in 5 again. But this was when Dallas was in pretty severe retreat from being a contender in 2004 and 2006. So this is the first time these teams have met in round 2. And we'll see how this goes. We'll see whether or not Dallas can keep up with Colorado. Because that is going to be a question in this series. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about Dallas, but yeah, Colorado is going to be a heavy favorite in this. Colorado is one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup, so I'm not overly surprised at the idea that when we do a poll, everybody's going to say Colorado. I would expect probably 80% of votes to go to Colorado for this series, and we'll see. We'll see whether or not Colorado can get into the conference final for the first time in a very long time. It feels like it's been forever because it's kind of been forever. 2001, of course, Colorado won the Stanley Cup because they didn't have to play Dallas. See, you can play that both ways, where Dallas didn't have to play Detroit, but Colorado didn't have to play Dallas in 2001. So there you go. All right. So when we look at the stats, the power plays favor Colorado 30.6%. They're absolutely clicking. Dallas is at 20%, but it was getting better as the Calgary series went along. Or Calgary's defense was becoming non-existent, and their goaltending needed some work. So again, this is where we'll find out. Were Dallas getting to be that good, or was Calgary just that bad? Penalty kill, excellent, 88% for Colorado, 76.7% for Dallas. Dallas needs to stay out of the box. This is where I get worried about, Corey Perry, who's a pretty good forward for them in the first round, but I do get worried about bad penalties. And they've got to watch that because Colorado has been lethal with the power play. Absolutely lethal. So when we look at the scoring, Heiskanen leads Dallas in 9 games with 3 goals and 9 assists. Gurianov, 9 games, 6 goals, 1 assist, 7 points. Keep in mind, 4 of those goals were last night. So outside of that, he has 3 points in 8 games. Gurianov, very much hot and cold. Klingberg, 9 games, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. Heiskanen, Klingberg. If Colorado can get to these 2 defensemen and wear them down, it goes a long way towards knocking out Dallas. Also, Pavelski cannot be ignored here. 9 games, 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points. Yes, Cale Makar is not on the board. I know he has 7 points in 8 games, but I had to have a cutoff. So we'll talk about Cale Makar Here you go. Jamie Benn is on the list here because this is where things get weird. Dallas is into the second round, knocks out Calgary, scores a bunch of goals and points, and yet Jamie Benn only has 2 goals and 2 assists in 9 games. That's it. Radulov, 2 goals and 1 assist in 9 games, and Tyler Seguin, who I do believe is nursing an injury, 3 assists in 8 games. So I'm not really making an excuse for Seguin. We don't know what it is, but I do think he's nursing some sort of an injury. And so I give him more of a pass than Ben and Radulov on the pedestrian stats. But if these guys can get going, it goes a long way towards maybe taking out Colorado. This is what Dallas needs. Maybe they were able to take out Calgary, using Calgary's ability to melt down and prevent themselves from getting a 3-1 series lead. That will be far more difficult against Colorado, who are a much deeper team. Goaltending-wise, of course, Ben Bishop has been unavailable for a while. He's 1-1 with an .862 save percentage since the return. Hudobin 4-3 with a .919 save percentage. Anton Hudobin has shown I knew it in Boston and I see it again in Dallas. He's a pretty good goaltender. He's not bad. And hopefully, if something happens with Vancouver, they go, oh, Markstrom's gone. I'd like to see Hudobin in Vancouver. I'd like to see him complete that trio of stops. So I like Hudobin. I think he's a good, backup who can fill in as a starter, as we're seeing here. And we'll see whether or not Colorado gets to him, as Calgary did early last night and then went, we're done. On the Colorado side, of course, McKinnon, 8 games, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. Good luck slowing him down. Kadri, 8 games, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points. And that's what's caused Toronto media to melt down, is just Kadri's looked absolutely fantastic. Said for years, Kadri's the number 2 center, and I think he's one of the better number 2 centers in the NHL when it comes to just having every part of the tool, every tool you want, which is the physicality, the face-offs, the scoring, the leadership. I think he's got all of it, and yet here we are, and Colorado seems to be the ones that appreciate it. Rantanen, 8 games, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. Burakovsky, 8 games, 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points. And Landeskog with 8 assists bumps Makar off of my board, who has 2 goals and 5 assists, 7 points. We all know how good Makar is. Landeskog's been pretty solid. That first line has been excellent. That's Dallas's job. Neutralize Nathan McKinnon. Also on the list, though, Valeri Nichushkin. So this is the storyline that we're going to hear a lot about at the start of this series. Nichushkin versus the team that ditched him. Although I think Nichushkin understands why the team ditched him, and right now he has 0 points in 8 games. And he's been struggling. He's been struggling since the return. This looks more like Nichushkin did in Dallas, where you see brief glimpses of a pretty good player, but he's struggling and he's maybe squeezing the stick a little too hard. And maybe he's putting too much pressure on himself with the playoffs. Graves also stands out because only 1 goal and 1 assist so far. Graves has played pretty well, and I would expect a big game from him over this series. At some point, he's going to have that big game. We'll see how that goes. But Graves has been quiet thus far on the score sheet. Grubauer, of course, 5-0-1 with a .937 save percentage. Yes, because round-robin games count as playoff stats. He has an overtime loss. And ties weren't allowed in the playoffs for a very, very, very long time. So this year has really messed up the whole stat sheets altogether. Francouz, 1-1 with a .958 save percentage. But in the one appearance he made against Arizona, they lost that game. So Francouz probably doesn't see the net unless we have back-to-backs, which we might. Maybe they'll play all 7 games in 7 days. Let's hurry this through. Let's get it done. Come on, let's go. Let's get it done. So when we look at the overall picture, and if I'm going to grade things, on the forward side, I'm definitely giving that to Colorado. I love what Dallas has done, but I think Colorado has the better forwards. Defense, Dallas is underrated defensively. They are. And I get it. I do. It's a pretty nondescript team, and they do rely on their top 4, I believe, more than Colorado does. It's more of a 6-man rotation with Colorado. But I give a slight edge towards Dallas because Heiskanen and Klingberg have been absolutely fantastic. If they can get Johns back, this becomes 100% the defenses on Dallas' side. But Johns is out again, and we'll see why soon, I would think. Goaltending, I honestly, between Hudobin and Grubauer, I give an edge to Hudobin. on some level for having the experience, but Grubauer right now, Grubauer's the better goaltender of the two, but it's close. So if you want to make the argument for Hudobin, that's fine too. And the no pressure side of things, well, Dallas is still kind of playing with house money here. If Dallas loses this series, it's not a big deal. I think Rick Bowness has already earned a right to stick around as the coach for next season. And for Colorado, there's expectation. They're expected to at least make the Stanley Cup final by many, myself included. I picked them to go to the Stanley Cup finals. So I'm expecting Colorado to win this series. I'll say in probably 6. Why am I wearing Dallas? Because I'm cheering for Dallas. This is how we do this now. I wear the jersey of the team I'm cheering for in each round, just to take the whole prediction part out of it. And we'll see. We'll see whether or not Dallas can do against Colorado anywhere near what they did against Calgary. Again, I have my doubts. Colorado's a much better team at this stage. And I think if you look at Bednar versus Bowness, I think Bednar's been a very good coach. But we'll see. We'll see what Rick Bowness might have up his sleeve. Let me know your thoughts and your winner in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.